First tonight, Dayton City Commission making a big decision tomorrow about youth group homes. The commission is going to vote on whether or not more youth group homes will be able to come into the city in the near future.
Now, group homes have been steadily popping up all over Montgomery County. However, Dayton has more of them than any other city in the county.
Jenny Bork live from City Hall tonight. What could tomorrow's vote do?
Adam and Elise, if the commission decides to pass the moratorium, it would pause new youth group homes from being able to come into the city for 180 days. Mayor Mims told me today the concentration of group homes is becoming a lot for the city to handle.
It just adds another set of challenges when you have young people who are there in those spaces in such high numbers.
Youth group homes where children can live who don't have foster homes have been popping up around the state. Montgomery County says there are over 200 licensed homes in the state, with 34% of them landing in the county. As of the end of June, 42 of the 79 in the county were in the city of Dayton.
A great number of them are concentrated in neighborhoods on the west side of Dayton. And so it puts a extra strain, if you will, on just supporting services.
City of Dayton commissioners will vote on Wednesday whether or not to enact a 180-day moratorium that would halt new group homes from setting up in Dayton. Mayor Jeffrey Mims says it would not affect the 10 applications the city is currently considering. Montgomery County says services like law enforcement, emergency services, and mental health care are being overburdened. Mims says schools are also being impacted.
So if you have the schools in a situation where they're addressing a lot of kids who have challenges, and then when you add more young people who have challenges, and if they're not getting the support that they need from the group homes, and if they're concentrated more heavily, then it makes it a challenge for all of us to be our best self.
DPD testified at the State House during a committee meeting about House Bill 583, which is trying to address this issue on the state level. During the testimony, DPD said, quote, "In 2022, the city of Dayton began to experience a notable increase in the amount of calls for service involving group homes in our community. These calls were for missing or unruly juveniles to more serious issues involving harm to these children," end quote. Mims says if passed, the moratorium will give the city time to come up with solutions.
So we just have to find a way to get some better control, if you will, over the spacing, and again, some agreements in terms of how they can function.
Mims says if the moratorium passes, the commission will consider getting an ordinance in place to address the distance between these group homes, as well as other issues neighbors have brought up who live in the neighborhoods where these group homes are at. Back to you in studio.
New tonight, Dayton Fire investigating a suspicious fire at a historic building on the west side. Investigators say around 8:30, crews responded to the Wright brothers airplane factory. They found debris on fire, which ran up a wall and into the roof area on one of the buildings. Firefighters were able to quickly knock it down, and you may remember a previous fire caused massive damage to the facility back in March of 2023. Congressman Mike Turner recently announced Dayton will be getting $4 million in federal funding to help restore the factory.
He didn't never have to pull that gun on her, ever. It wasn't called for. He was a bully with a badge.
A Blenheim Township police officer now faces murder charges in connection to the death of a pregnant black woman in a grocery store parking lot. The death of 21-year-old Takaya Young making national headlines as she was shot after officers learned she allegedly shoplifted from the store. Body camera video shows police demanding her to get out of the car, but she tried to drive away. Investigators say Officer Connor Grubb fired a single shot through the windshield, killing both Young and her unborn baby. Daryl Rowland was at the news conference today with Young's family and their attorney, where they expressed relief to see justice being served.
I'm glad he's indicted. I thank God for that. I really do. I've been waiting almost a whole year for this.
Nadine Young, Takaya Young's grandmother, emotional following news of the 10-count indictment against Blenheim Township Officer Connor Grubb, including 4 charges of murder in connection with the death of Young and her unborn child. Nadine Young telling us she plans to be front and center when Grubb appears in court. Can you look him in the eye?
Oh, yes, I want to. I want him to see my eyes and see my heart and see what I feel and see if he even got a heart.
The case was handled by the Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office, which issued a statement. While it is concerning that an officer sworn to uphold the law has been indicted for homicide charges, no one is above the law. Grubb's attorney, Mark Collins, says the suspended officer will plead not guilty to all charges. With the grand jury process being under the dominion and control of the special prosecutors, we fully anticipated this outcome. However, the evidence will show that our client's actions were justified. Blendon Township immediately moved to suspend Grubb, but Sean Walton, attorney for the Young family, called for his immediate firing. And both he and Nadine Young say Grubb deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison.
In no scenario does somebody shoplifting contribute at all to their murder by a police officer who was investigating.
They also pushed back against the claim Grubb had no choice other than to shoot because Takaya Young was using her car as a weapon.
He put himself in harm's way. He shot her in the heart and killed her.
That was Daryl Rowland reporting. Meanwhile, the union representing the Blendon Township police officers is calling the indictment deeply disappointing, saying Grubb made a split-second decision. Columbus FOP president believes the indictment was politically motivated because a prosecutor from Montgomery County is involved in the case. A legal expert weighing in on the claim, saying it's not uncommon for outside prosecutors to step in because it removes accusations of bias.
I can understand his politically motivated claim that an outside prosecutor is making this decision who really has no involvement with the case once it goes further into litigation. It's not unusual to bring outside prosecutors in who have no connection with local law enforcement, and then if the case doesn't get indicted, then there wouldn't be a claim that they were self-dealing.
The Blendon Township Police Chief says a disciplinary review process is now underway. Grubb has remained on administrative leave since the shooting. He's set to be arraigned tomorrow.
The U.S. Marshals Service hosting a roundtable with Miami Valley's law enforcement leaders to discuss lowering violent crime in the area. It comes after an officer-involved shooting on Sunday, which began as a mental health call. That's why Lydia Bias asked law enforcement leaders today about the mental health training they get.
Most law enforcement agencies in our area do crisis intervention training, both during the police academy and as refresher courses throughout their career in order to properly handle those dealing with a mental health crisis. Montgomery County Sheriff Rob Streck says that mental health and substance abuse calls are at the top of the board at the Regional Dispatch Center, which is why having officers trained in those areas is beyond important.
So once again, just like we did with substance abuse, the key is to try to get resources here into our areas. So like the Sheriff's Office, all of our deputies are CIT trained. My corrections officers are CIT trained.
During today's roundtable, both federal and local law enforcement officials agreed that they're going to continue collaborating when it comes to reducing violent crimes in our area and crimes involving teens or those with mental health issues. Back to you.
Beaver Creek Police asking for your help tonight to identify this man. They believe he broke into a car near a bike path. They say he made over $3,000 in purchases using stolen credit cards from the vehicle. Anyone with information is asked to call detectives at the number on your screen. Now, the department is reminding everyone to always lock your vehicle and never leave valuables inside.
We now know the names of the two people killed in a single car crash in Bethel Township. Happened just after 7 Monday night near Sullivan Road. Deputies say a convertible had overturned, landed upside down. 65-year-old James Jackson, 66-year-old Matthew Stormer were killed. One other passenger survived but was flown to a local hospital for treatment. An investigation found that seat belts had not been in use at the time of the crash.
We now know one person is dead tonight after a 2-vehicle crash on I-70 in Wayne County. It happened just after 10 o'clock this morning. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office says a pickup truck was traveling westbound when it slowed due to construction. A van that was traveling behind it could not stop in time and collided with that pickup truck. Michael Abbey of Maryland was taken to the hospital where he later died. The passenger in his car and the other driver were treated for their injuries. That crash remains under investigation.
A vacant house in Dayton destroyed after what fire crews are calling a suspicious fire. Happened on the 500 block at Dakota Street just before 6 tonight. Several fire departments were on scene to put it out. District Fire Chief Andrew Wiley says the home next to it was exposed to the flames but was quickly put out. He says it's still not known if anyone was inside at the time.
We were unable to enter due to the amount of flames we had, so we don't 100% know yet if anyone's inside. We're treating this fire as suspicious right now. The investigator's looking at it.
Now, Wiley says one firefighter was treated for heat exhaustion but is expected to be okay.
Well, it was a warm one across the Miami Valley today, making it into the 80s, mid 80s for most of us. 84 in Dayton, some lower 80s off to the north, 81 Salina, 81 Wapakoneta, which is around even slightly below our normal for this time of the year. Temperatures right now hanging on the 60s and 70s, so a little bit warmer than we've been these past several nights, but it's still pretty pleasant. If you step outside, you still probably notice that it's not super humid. That being said, dew points have climbed a little bit. They're back into the 60s compared to the 50s. That'll be the trend for these next couple of days, but still pretty comfortable night. 61 for our overnight low, looking pretty good. Skies will be mostly clear. I'll talk about the rest of the week and when we'll get some rain back in the picture coming up.
Several college students concerned about FAFSA application this school year, what some universities in and around the Miami Valley are saying is causing the delay in funding. Next.
And here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Sports Desk is sponsored.
Day.
With school already in session for some and others start dates right around the corner, college students specifically be concerned about filling out their FAFSA for the 2024-2025 school year. Many college students across the country experienced errors and glitches delaying their FAFSA to be processed. Kasha Hancock caught up with some universities today about this. What are they saying about this issue?
Adam, when I caught up with Director of Financial Aid at Wright State, she told me FAFSA may want to consider using paper applications as it may be easier and less stressful for some families.
delays probably have resulted in a little more stress this year when it's taking longer for families to know if they can afford different schools.
College students all around the country depend on financial aid to get the education they've always dreamed of. But with glitches and errors in the 2024-2025 application, the process has been difficult.
Example, we had a family come in and their name was too long and they didn't know how to send an invitation to their contributor.
Director of Financial Aid at Wright State, Kim Everhart, says they try their absolute best to help students through different payment plan options. Central State University telling me the same thing. In a statement from Central State, it says in part, quote, "Our commitment remains focused on ensuring that every student has access to the financial resources they need to pursue their education." The university also saying it plans to support students through any 2025-2026 application difficulties. I caught up with 2 Central State students about the process.
My FAFSA actually got rejected the first time. I actually filled it out the right way, but for some reason it got rejected.
Aiden Fisher tells me he made corrections, but his financial aid was still held up. He only recently got the aid.
If it was more issues coming up, it would just be like, dang, like, why couldn't y'all just fix it? Because if y'all know it was an issue.
But both Fisher and his friend Eric Richardson say they're grateful to the financial aid staff at Central State for helping them, confident they'll continue to help them with future problems.
Shout out Ms. Morton, financial aid over there in Ward. Go check her out. She always looks out for us, make sure we got our stuff together.
As we continue to hear more updates from the Education Department, we'll be sure to update you on air and online at Dayton247now.com. Back to you.
Well, quiet weather across the Miami Valley. We've seen sunshine today. Humidity has been pretty comfortable today, too, with high pressure pretty much keeping things nice and quiet for now. But to our southwest, we do have an area of low pressure and eventually a warm front that will lift in. This will increase cloud cover and rain chances by later this week, especially by our Friday time frame. We'll be dealing with scattered rain and storms across the region. So heading into the overnight hours, we'll drop into the lower 60s, some upper 50s. 80s by tomorrow afternoon, maybe even a couple of upper 80s out there, very similar to what we had today. And then by Thursday, this is when we start to notice those clouds really build in as that warm front lifts closer through. Clouds start to increase, and then by late Thursday night into Friday, we'll see an increased chance for rain and storms. There is a low end risk as of right now for perhaps a few of those storms to be on the stronger side. So we're going to be watching that very closely. It's still a little ways away, but Thursday into Friday, we will be tracking those thunderstorms, with those storms continuing into Friday. As far as rain, could see about a ½ inch or so once it's all said and done with some spots seeing a little less as well. But I'll have a look at the rest of the week coming up.
After months of slow negotiations for higher wages, flight attendants associated with PSA Airlines may be going on strike. Eli Burgett spoke to the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, and has the reasoning behind the potential strike.
Well, PSA Airlines, a wholly owned subsidiary of American Airlines, operates about 500 flights every single day to 100 different destinations. That includes some out of Dayton International Airport. But after failing to reach a contract agreement between employees and management, PSA may see over 1,300 flight attendants go on strike.
So this means that PSA Airlines flight attendants will vote on whether or not they're willing to go on strike if released by the National Mediation Board in order to get the contract that we deserve.
After a long 7-month contract negotiation process, the PSA chapter of the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, is calling for a vote to go on strike. PSA Airlines says that reaching an agreement with their high-value employees is a top priority. But still, strike authorization voting ballots are currently in the process of being sent out to all PSA flight attendants, who are hoping to send a message from the working class. We reached out to Dayton International Airport for comment, but we have not heard anything back as of yet. The authorization vote for the potential strike will open on August 21st and will close on September 17th. Back to you.
Let's give you a live look now from our Eco Plumber Sky Cam. Beautiful evening out there. Let's send it out to Chief Meteorologist Natalie Walters.
Well, not too bad out here in our Watson's weather patio. It's been a quiet past several days. Humidity going up just a little bit. It's also warming up a bit too. But one thing you may have noticed are your allergies acting up just a little bit. And the reason why could be because of ragweed. It's this time of the year that we do start to see ragweed become a concern for those allergies. So numbers, I was checking them earlier, they are very high at this point. So that's likely the culprit if your nose is a little runny or if you've been sneezing. We do have temperature-wise next several days. They're going to be in the 80s, mid-80s for us, which is right around the normal for this time of the year. I mentioned those rain chances, but late into the week, we will see lower 80s, or I should say start of next week. I'll have a look at our 7-day with those rain chances coming up in just a bit.
Dayton's rich history will soon hit the big screen. Our local film project is aiming to tell the story of the Wright brothers.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Take Dayton 24/7 Now News.
The first film about the Wright brothers is being developed right here in the Gem City. The Flying Machine film was announced at Dayton Aviation Heritage National Historical Park. Now, that film will tell the story of the Wright brothers and the contribution to the birth of aviation. Many guests were in attendance at the film's announcement, including the director.
I really wanted to make something that would be from our community, that would draw people to Dayton that we could all have a win off of. I want people to actually see what these guys did and all the things that they had to go through. It's quite a story when you really get to see it on the silver screen when it'll eventually be here.
The Palmer Studios team has a $50 million donation goal for that film. And if you want to learn more about it, donate, or even buy merchandise, you can head to flyingmachinemovie.com.
The final episode of our Missing Nikki McCown podcast is out now. This 5-part series is the most in-depth investigation into the disappearance of the missing bride-to-be. In episode 5, the walls close in on a primary suspect as secrets from his past come back to haunt him. You can scan that QR code on your screen to download or search Missing Nikki McCown in Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you use.
Several players for the Cincinnati Bengals were either absent or left practice early today. Who was missing from the final at-home practice before Chicago next.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Need a new roof, siding, window?